Saturday on BT Sport, and it's the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. Middlesbrough and Manchester City is live from 11:45 at lunchtime on 2HD and in ultra-high definition on BT Sport 4K. That's followed by Score with Matt Smith at 2:30. All the day's action and results covered on 2HD and BT Sport Showcase. And then at 5 o'clock, Lincoln City's amazing story continues here at Arsenal. The Imps are the first non-league side to get to the last eight of the FA Cup in over 100 years. It's BT Sport 2HD and 4K UHD for the history men of Lincoln. Well, two games tonight. In the other one, the holders, Real Madrid, have come through with two goals from Sergio Ramos and another from Morata. 3-1 win and 6-2 win on aggregate. But for Arsene Wenger, it's more misery as they were hammered once again 5-1 by Bayern Munich. Checkmate in many ways. And Rio, we see a picture there of a sad-looking Arsene Wenger, and I suppose the headlines are going to mount, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And listen, the last 10 years, in terms of league trophies, the Champions League has been a disappointing period for Arsenal and Arsene Wenger. And it'd be disappointing, really, to see him go out on this note, considering what he's brought not only to Arsenal Football Club, but to English football in general, in bringing it forward in terms of sports science, etc., winning at the beginning, the players that he's brought to this league. But at this moment in time, things just aren't going well. They're not going right, and he doesn't seem to be able to find the answer at the moment.
Do you think the game's perhaps moved on, it's evolved, and he's stuck in his old ways?
Maybe, and that's what he's accused of. And sometimes the signings, a lot of them are similar. You know, it's questioned the calibre of the mentality of the players that he signs. You know, everybody's always on about the leaders that Arsenal need, and I think that's plain to see. I think even in a game like today, you know, when it's 7-8, you know, you're thinking to yourself on the pitch, you want some people to be able to recognise and say, listen, let's just make sure this isn't too embarrassing. But that's not happened. So it will land at Arsene Wenger's doorstep in respect of the players that have come. But I still believe that the players from Man that's had so much faith in them have let him down, like, continually.
But what you see here, though, there's a genuine golfing class. Yeah. The level of the performers here, you're looking at one team, you can see that the level is way up here, and the Arsenal team is down here.
That is a starting point. Bayern are at a complete different level.
Yeah, well, they are an excellent side.
So then take into account you play with one less player. You know, at some point you need to find a way. Everybody's been there as a player. You got to find a way to manage a game, and that game was getting out of hand.
Well, there was no way once they went to 10 players so they could possibly turn it around.
But then they kept trying to play out from the back, and Bayern picked them off. And Bayern, I think, were happy with what was it, 3-1. But the last two goals were almost gifted.
Well, he made three substitutes at 2-1, didn't he?
And they were more attacking subs, weren't they? Perez and Ozil. He was looking for maybe to inspire the crowd. I don't know, but at that point the game was over.
Yeah, a lot of people will talk about the referee and the influence he made, because obviously the decision at 1-1 is vital. He seemed to change his mind first and foremost. You know, whether it's a penalty or not, should it be, first he gives him a yellow card. In the modern game, obviously, with the new law about double, treble jeopardy and etc., where it's got to be a really like a hack from behind or a handball on the line nowadays to give a red card. Should that have warranted one?
I don't think that's a red card. Never. I think that Arsene Wenger has every right to be frustrated with that decision, because that completely changed the game. I think he gets his arm across him, but I think a yellow would have been perfect, and that changed the game.
He almost pushes off of Koscielny there.
Yeah.
You know, he kind of like, it promotes the actual the contact by pushing off of him, Lewandowski. I know that he's kind of impeded him a bit because he's on the wrong side, but like it did seem for him to get a red card majorly harsh for me, and it did change the game.
The referee Tados Sideropoulos, that's his first knockout game in the Champions League.
Probably be his last as well, I'm sure. Well, at the moment, after today's performance.
Okay, well, Lewandowski obviously knocked it in from the spot.
The super penalty. He doesn't take his eye off of David Ospina. And it's a game that we were seeing, he could have had 3 or 4 goals in this game.
Should have, yeah. Lewandowski.
And just like the first leg, Ian Robin got in on the act.
Well, it's like Owen said there, you know, trying to play out. I think that you've just got to get the ball as far away from your goal as you possibly can and try and defend in numbers. It didn't happen, and you see it was quite easy for them in the end to to just pick Arsenal off then.
At this point, they give them the goals.
Yeah.
But Bayern don't have to really work too hard to get these goals here that are coming up now, and it's just that's when you need the maturity and the experience and the personalities for people to really talk to the teammates and say, listen, we're getting embarrassed now. Let's calm ourselves down here.
Real. There was a lot of positives, I thought, for Arsenal. But at some point, this result, look at this. This is 3v1. You know,
well, this is like schoolboy stuff.
They're too open. And anyway, they get back in. There's no way Costa to go on his left foot. But at some point, you just need these players. Sometimes with Arsenal, you think when the ship's sinking, it sinks. Do you know what I mean? They never find a way to get it back on course. And that's something they need to address, because that game in Munich, you know, Liverpool, and then today, the one in Chelsea early in the season.
Yeah, but that comes from guidance from above.
That comes
in terms
from
of
everyone,
and that comes from the players having the personality to be able to deal with these situations.
But the guy that's usually responsible for that is ultimately, isn't he? Is the manager?
Is the manager? Like you say, we saw he put on at the death when it's getting embarrassing. In respects of the scoreline, what the scoreline could have been, he's bringing on Ozil.
Audacious little finish there from.
Ospina's played his last 2 games, Champions League. He's conceded 10 goals, and he's the best player over in Germany.
He was, definitely.
The Ox played pretty well.
Ox, I thought, was terrific today, and that's what I mean. There were positives, but how can they be so open, Arsenal, at this stage of the game?
What do you mean there's positives? You can't get a positive when you get beat 5-1.
They started the game. The attitude was spot on.
But you won't remember that. Are you going to remember that?
No, I'm not. But I'm saying
not that player.
The last 30 minutes, the ship just sank, no question. But the attitude was right. But you have to ask yourself, and I'm sure Arsene Wenger was asking these players, how can we start well, and the last 30 minutes we just disappear? They did it in Munich. They did it here. And if you want to compete against these teams, it can happen.
There's no way you're going to come out of a game like this and say there's going to be any positives at all to take from this game. Whether you're an individual, collectively, 10-2 over 2 legs is
I'm not saying it's possible. I'm saying they started the game in the right way, and that's what you wanted to see. And
up until the I think the penalty,
the red card, I think the game was different.
There was a different attitude, different drive about them, which was quite encouraging to see.
But even then, you would have said in that game, we got one less. Keep it tight. Owen, stay in front of me.
Well, you don't want to be embarrassed.
No, exactly.
For when you get the red card, I'd have said, I'll take what it is now. I'll take that scoreline, what it was.
And everybody would have defended your own half. You would have lumped it forward and hoped for 1v1s.
You know Arsene Wenger well. He's seemed a little bit not quite himself lately, a little bit kind of sad in a way, a bit even worse now. What do you expect him to do? How can he lift these players?
Well, I don't know, and that's the problem I think he has. And I've seen Arsene Wenger like the last month feeling like that, and then you see him again the other day against Liverpool when it went 2-0 down. His hands through his head, he doesn't know what to do, and then he looks like a lost man, and you lose against Bayern Munich like you did, and you're trying to find something the second game, and it goes against you. It just seems to be just mounting up, and then you've got the fans, the protests before the game, whatever it was. I'm sure not all Arsenal fans feel like that, but it's imploding, isn't it?
Tough times at this football club. Still to come before we finish at 10:30. We've got the best of the action from the other game being played tonight between Napoli and Real Madrid, and we'll also hear from that man, Arsene Wenger. Been another tough night for Arsenal fans as Bayern Munich repeated what they did 3 weeks ago. A sense of deja vu. Koscielny didn't last the 90 minutes yet again, this time because of a red card, but Bayern then certainly made hay. And they cruised through to the quarter-finals, and Arsenal are out. Let's hear from the Arsenal manager, Arsene Wenger. He's with Des Kelly.